what I call my perspective. Here is my perspective. Okay, my perspective dictates how I handle any crisis that occurs. Okay, and when I'm deeply discouraged, my perspective can't be interfered with by outside forces. So logical consequences, setting up rewards and punishments and those kinds of things work if my discouragement isn't this deep. You know, if my discouragement's only here, I'm good. But if my discouragement have gone all the way down and I'm doing revenge behavior, then I have to allow the natural consequences of behavior to happen. Those are the best teachers. Best teachers. Natural consequences teach us the best. So now I have to allow some negative things to occur and can't protect my kid from it. So the negatives have to happen. You know, so I'm facilitating that. And then the other thing is, because what I say is this, I want the negatives to teach, and I want the parents to be put in a position where the relationship is strong and they're advocating for their kids. Okay, instead of decision making for their kids. I want you to be their advocates. So when a kid's this discouraged, there's got to be a third party involved. Youth pastor, counselor, mentor, I don't care. But you can't do it by yourself.
I think the bravest thing one of my friends ever did is her son did something wrong. And she ended up calling the police and saying, my son did something wrong. It was interesting because the police were like, why did you call me? She's like, because he did something wrong. But when she did that, then she got to be the advocate.
Yes.
Because if you don't, then you stand in the place as judge
Yeah.
and jury
Yeah.
and all of that. So one of the hardest things she ever had to do, but
Yeah.
I respect her so much for it.
Or allow Joey's mom to call the cops. Yep, you better probably do that.
Mhm.
And I'll get him where he needs to be. Or you know, he's got to go and you better have that conversation with the teacher, let her know what you just did. And I'm not in the middle of that. Now I'm not in the middle of that, so now I can be a resource. The kids say, what am I going to say to him? Now I'm coaching them through that tough conversation. And that's really, in the book Love and Logic, that they do a nice job of helping you kind of know negotiate that stuff, so you're not interfering with this. And you put yourself in an advocate position for whether you have a girl or a boy in the situation. Your relationship with those kids can be strong. And that's what I want. Because this is hard. This is hard and this is hard. And I don't know which is harder. I mean, I have them in order, but I don't know which one's harder. It depends on the parent. I mean, kids who are mean and vindictive and getting back at people and collecting, you know, keeping counts of how many wrongs, that's one thing. And a kid who's discouraged and anxious or depressed and has had failure after failure after failure in certain areas, or like you guys were talking about, anticipated failure, and so bailed, like, no, dude, I'm not picking up another football. You know, that's a hard thing to kind of figure out. It depends on the parent. Some parents can handle that kid, but can't handle this kid. Some of you understand anger and revenge, and so you can do that one, but you don't know what to do with it. This kid who just quits. You know, so you got to know, and these are the kids that you got to bring the third party in on, because it's difficult to do that kind of thing. All right, I better quit. All right, last slide just looks at typical hassles that happen in the house, that we see at our office, that aren't a function of pathology or nuts, but just the kind of stuff that happens in our office that parents face. And then we have, in our parent, I run a program where we do a boot camp, and so then I teach parents how to deal with those 6 or 7 problems, and then we call them these terms, but there's interventions for parents to do for each of those kind of kids. So that's boot camps of 1 day, 6 hour, begin lessons of parenting stuff all day. So, all right, questions, comments, heckles? 5:30. And then the last two slides you read, because they're about self-care. So the difference between caretaking and caring for. So I put those slides in because I'm in 1993, I crashed and burned. So I ended up in the hospital for being too caretaking. And I wasn't taking care of myself, I was caretaking, I was putting people on my back. Biblically, there's a difference between a load and a burden, and I was handling everything like it was a burden. I wasn't handling my own load, but I was handling everybody else's. Anything they brought, I was considered a burden. They need help, they need my help. And so I ended up in the hospital for about a month. The good thing out of that was in 1993, Stronghold came alive. But God had to intubate me, so just to tell you how much of a knucklehead I am, had to have a tube in my throat before I could say, yeah, okay, I'll consider it, you know, because that's just the way I work. So I put that on there because I don't want to see parents, and I do think there's such thing as compassion fatigue for parents. Right? I do think caregiving, whether you're giving it to your kids or giving it to your own parents or whatever, can take its toll if you don't manage it very well. So I want to, I might come visit one of you guys in hospital for different reasons, but not for taking too much, not taking a break from your job and doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. All right. You got nothing for me? I'm out.
And maybe have one just something if you're,
I'm in.
have thoughts on, so our older daughter, she's, almost too quick to kind of move on sometimes.
Okay.
Right, and I admit that I'll hold on to grudges and things a lot longer than I should, but our oldest daughter, she'll, kind of, after you get into a pretty heated discussion, she'll come and wanna hug on you and everything else before she apologizes for anything that she's done. And I sometimes wonder if that's enabling her to ignore reality, right, and just move on without solving something, or should, as a parent, should I be pulling that back and, kind of digging up that dirt that we're trying to work through and try to solve it first, and I don't wanna be training her to have the same behavior that I have of holding on to grudges and,
Right.
and so I don't know, just in your.
I think what you want to do is you gotta have sort of 1, 2, 3 step that you're gonna do. I mean, I think that forgiveness step is an important thing. I think the talking through is an important thing. I don't think we should live there, I think we should be thinking about moving on, but I think, in our house, we said, I wanna know what happened and how come it happened. And if you hurt somebody or you hurt me or I hurt you, let's do the repair. And then it's up to you whether or not we revisit it. And some kids wanna live there for a while and you gotta shorten that up, and some kids wanna escape. And those are the kids you gotta bring back and just say, but we didn't do all the steps, so I can't let it go because I don't want you to carry it. We're not gonna spend here all day, but I do need you to do 1 or 2, or you skip 3. Yeah, whatever it is, you skipped it. So, I'm gonna keep looking at you funny till you do that step. And what happens is if you do that early, then those are skills that kids later on, they will complain about it, and then you hear them saying it to their friends or other people. This is what we do. So you gotta fight for it too, but you two have to sort of say, what's our 1, 2, 3 in terms of relational repair?
That's all, thank you.
You think it's easier, you think your kid, cause I think I do that, is, let's just get it over with. Maybe it's cause I don't wanna take responsibility for it.
I think that's true. I think,
That's what I think.
that's why sometimes I think it's important to bring it back. And you have to be able, remember I said you have to know your input for your kid. Cause sometimes kids say I'm sorry different ways. So they may never say they're sorry, but all of a sudden you got batches of cookies for the last 3 days. You know, and that's their way of saying, like, I feel really bad about what happened. Or you gotta know. So you have to, it's also, you have to read your kids so you know how they would, you know, how they say, I'm sorry, then you make that overt. So, oh, so the cookies I just got for 3 days, is that, I'm sorry? Yeah, Dad, why you always say that? And I'm like, I'm just trying to check it out. You know, and so we do it, but we come back, you know, and the other part is that kids nowadays, because we don't talk to each other, we text and all that stuff, they don't know how to step up and take responsibility. Like, just, you know, if I have a high shame index, then it's very painful for me to say it was my fault. My fault. I was rude. You know, it's hard to do that. And so, and you gotta know, I can train my kid into my style. Cause I'm an imitator, they're gonna imitate me. So and that's not a bad thing to say I'm a punk when it comes to saying I'm sorry or I was wrong. But then when you don't do it, then just own it. Like, no, I mean, I didn't say I was, but you know what I mean. And then they know, it becomes a joke and people can poke at you but you own it. Like, okay, yeah, that I resemble that remark. You know, but I think it's important. You know, so if some of you fall on the cross, it was me, and the sword goes through 3 times, and you do this with the sword, and some of you get the tip and go, yep, that was good. And you know, you're out of there, and that's not taking responsibility either. So the kids have to be able to sort of say, but I don't want to rub their nose in it either. You know, that's the dangerous thing. You know, like you said, I don't want them to develop a habit of resentment, which is easy for us as human beings to do. You know, so it's actually a brain-based program.
It was really interesting this week. I just listened to Susan David, an interview with her, and she just wrote Emotional Agility, and she talked about in a lot of homes we don't allow for negative emotion. So we had a night that had a lot of negative emotion, and it kind of surprised us. And we are the type that like to talk things out, and our daughter was like, didn't want anything to do with it. And but the behavior wasn't acceptable. The emotion was okay. I can handle you being mad, but the way you're being mad, so I'm sitting there going, I need to make space for negative emotion.
Right, you do.
But this behavior isn't acceptable.
Right.
And then I just want to go to my room and be alone. And so then I was finally like, okay, I hear you saying that you want to go to your room and be alone, and I trust that that's what you need. But I'm not going to chase you. So if you need me, if you need Dad, you need to tell us.
Right.
I'm trusting that you know what you need, and you also need to know I didn't appreciate this.
Right.
It's okay for you to be mad, but the way you treated us in being mad wasn't okay.
And so now, the hard part is repair. So,
Well, then she said, I don't want to be alone. And then we got to talk about it.
Right, because that's the hard part is you did the good skills in terms of that. Now I got to talk her that overtly through what a repair looks like in that particular case. How did you? Because kids will go, but you said it's okay to be mad, but I did that because I was mad. They don't separate that out, and so I have to be able to help them repair. Like, you don't have to apologize to me for being mad, but you have to apologize to me for what your mad made you do. Because mad sometimes can be a good thing, sometimes it leads to goofy stuff.
Well, and they're operating in plantation mode.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, they do the same thing that we're.
They do.
I have a friend who struggles with anger sometimes with their kid, but they have that same. They're trying to operate in plantation mode versus other.
And what I found is she had this whole internal dialogue going on in her head about why we did the things that we did.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, so when you got so mad, what did you think we were like? What happened? And then she was able to tell us the thoughts that she was having.
Right.
And then we were able to say, oh, okay.
Right. Well, and they're affect-based thoughts, so they're not just pure. You know, like what we know now is that they wouldn't create so much problems if they didn't have affect agitation attached to the thinking. So the thinking triggers this crazy thing, like, so my mom and dad are, and the world is, and then if you don't talk it through, and that's what decoding is about, is having a conversation with my parents, which should be regulating and reality-based, which helps me start to have a better, a better sense of common sense. Oh, this is how regular people think about this, yeah. So the way I was thinking about it, no, it was nutty talk, you know, it was nutty talk.
Stinking thinking.
Yeah, and so kids can kind of start to laugh at their own nutty talk, you know, because you don't shame them about it. You just say, I get that, you know. So that's an important factor. So, well, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sundays, I know how valuable Sundays are for me.